We're joined by Mr. Stanley Kamanguya. Stanley is the boss at ICTA, the Chief Executive Officer at the ICT Authority. Stanley, good morning.
Good morning, Eric.
Welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation. That's a hot seat of the Situation Room. How do you feel?
Thank you very much. It's rather hot.
Bwana, surely. It's supposed to be, it's not even hot. It's cold.
But we can handle it. Thank you very much.
Karibu sana.
Yeah.
You'll tell us about the ICT Authority, what you do. We know about the ICT Ministry. Of course, we've heard about this authority before. And the work of digitizing the country. Mambo ni tano kwa hii agenda ya Kenya Kwanza. Okay? The fifth one, like you keep saying, is digital transformation. Sindio hiyo? The others we know. Iko nyumba, iko chakula, iko
afya,
kasi ya vijana, hasla, iko afya. Hii ingine ya tano, ICT. And this is why Mr. Kamanguya is here. To do CT's job is to first welcome you with the day's proverb, which is the proverbs this week are from South Africa. So, today's proverb says, when a bird builds its nest, it uses the feathers of other birds. When a bird builds its nest, it uses the feathers of other birds. What do you make of that, Stanley?
Thank you very much, Eric. That's a very interesting proverb. And I think really what it speaks to us about is building from the experiences of other people. In both our individual lives, but also our professional lives. I think that's the best I can make, out of that proverb. Yes.
Interesting. So use other people's experiences to better your own.
That's correct.
To build your own.
Yes.
A good one.
Yeah.
Tell us about the ICT Authority. What is it?
Once again, thank you and good morning, our listeners and viewers. The ICT Authority is a state agency under the Ministry of ICT that is really charged with the mandate of enabling the government to deliver the digital economy. And I think you have clearly indicated that the government has been very deliberate in identifying ICT as a key enabler for digital economy. But allow me to step back and really ask ourselves, why is ICT actually important? If you look at the traditional view of ICT, even in private organizations, ICT used to be a small department hidden somewhere, where people used to go if they have a small issue with their computers. And really, the role of ICT was only seen to replace people's jobs. The company was saying, we need to increase efficiency of the company and productivity. But the people viewed it initially as a bad thing for them.
Yep.
And in government also, it was very similar, where the drive for ICT was around productivity and efficiency. But this has since evolved in a big way. Right now, the innovations in ICTs have opened up immense opportunities in all the sectors. For example, if you look at the health sector, right now, we are saying medical doctors can actually collaborate during a procedure. Doctors in Kenya can collaborate with doctors in Canada through the use of ICT. We are now able to see remote consultations in the area of medical. Go to the something like education. You saw during the pandemic how ICT really helped us to revolutionize and deliver education for the country through digital platforms. Education has since become cheaper because of ICT. People are able to do online learning. There are many cheap courses that are available online. And also the area of communication and digital inclusion, participation in the society in terms of inclusion of the people, it has really opened up. So really, our mandate as the ICT Authority is to help the country to tap into the opportunities that exist in the digital space. And we do it in three ways broadly. First is the citizen-facing empowerment, where we're saying at the end of the day, we want our citizens to be more connected, more empowered, and more intelligent through ICT, for them to be able to improve their quality of lives and take advantage of the digital space. We also, the second aspect of our work is to drive what we call an intelligent government. We want a government that enables sharing of citizen data across the government agencies, so that then citizens can be able to have a seamless interaction with the government regardless of the agency. We want a government that is data driven, that can be able to drive policies through data analysis to inform policy decisions. And we want a government that is citizen-centric. And our work really is to modernize and digitize the government for it to operate efficiently and serve the citizens in a more efficient manner. Then the third aspect of it is just to provide the enabling environment, both from an infrastructure perspective and also legal and regulatory perspective, for the government to do that, the citizens to do that, and the private sector to play its part in that journey. So that is really our mandate.
That's what you do.
Yes.
Is this advisory, or is it things that you actually do? When you talk about, for example, having an intelligent government, you want to make sure that the government is digitized, we have digitized services and all. Do you do it, or do you advise other agencies to do it?
We actually are charged with the design and implementation of critical government systems. So we do not only develop the standards for the government to follow, but all the critical government infrastructure we actually deploy. We also advise other agencies on other systems that they are doing. So we play both roles of implementation for the critical government infrastructure and an advisory role to the government agencies for the other systems.
So is eCitizen under you?
That's correct. eCitizen is under us. We support the eCitizen technology. We manage the eCitizen platform, and in collaboration with the other stakeholders, including the Ministry of Interior, we are then, driving the digitization of government. Yes.
What would Kenyans look around and see happening in the country that would then now be able to draw a string from that thing that comes then back to the authority?
Thank you very much, because, most of the things that the authority do are mostly not visible to the citizens. And we always compare ourselves with the road sector. The road sector, I've gotten here through the expressway. So everybody knows that was done by the road sector. But what you don't know, within the same expressway, on the sides, we have our fiber infrastructure cable. And part of it is also underground. So first, the first thing that we do that the citizens can relate to is the deployment of digital infrastructure in the country. And this is, witnessed or consumed by the citizens through the services they use for communication and internet connectivity. I can tell you that in one way or another, the person who provides internet to your house or to your offices actually rely on the ICT Authority to provide the backbone fiber optic infrastructure for them to deliver those services. When you go to the other space around digital services, I think you have just mentioned the eCitizen system, which is actually one component of the work we are doing to digitize the government. And, the other component is around digitization of government records and automation of back-end processes, so that then the citizens can actually experience. When you go to the Ministry of Land, now you can be able to do your searches online. It is the ICT Authority that has supported that technology, so that then we make the experience of our citizens with the government a bit more joyous. People, get less and less frustrated moving from one office to another. You can now transact a lot of government business from the comfort of your office or your home, courtesy of the ICT or ICT Authority. I think the other major program that we are rolling out under the Digital Superhighway is really the public Wi-Fi. Which, interestingly, Eric, the level of interest that this has raised with our citizens is enormous. And we are seeing enormous amount of consumption of data through this public Wi-Fi service. And through this public Wi-Fi service, we are saying we're not only bringing connectivity to the people at the markets and the bus stops and all the public areas, but we are also enabling them to be able to take advantage of the opportunities in the digital space.
In the digital space.
Yes.
So, before we get to the Wi-Fi, you are in charge of the fiber infrastructure backbone.
That's
right?
Correct. Yes.
There's this project called NOFIB. Is it still in existence? The National Optic Fiber Infrastructure Backbone.
Yes.
Which is basically looking at connecting the entire country through fiber optic. When the PS and the CS were here before, we talked about, rolling out this fiber into ward level, into village level. Then we start having these village kiosks that are connected to the national fiber infrastructure. And then that's when we start rolling out now the other services. You're the ones in charge of that hard cable, the fiber cable.
That's correct.
You're the one in charge of managing it, maintaining it, and rolling it out across the country.
That's correct.
How much more do we have to do to actually get the entire country connected?
Thank you very much. We have a lot to do. So first, let me start with where we are as a country in terms of internet connectivity and penetration. As of now, about 42% of our population have access to the internet. So what does that tell you? We have about 58% to cover. So that's the first aspect, increasing connectivity. The second aspect of it is around the costs. How much money are we spending for us to actually consume the internet connectivity? The costs have been coming down over time, but we believe we have a huge scope to be able to reduce the costs. So how are we addressing these two issues? In the national transformation agenda under the current administration, we have identified 100,000 kilometers of fiber. And we are saying the government alone, within the short time that we have, may not be able to deliver it fully. So what we have done is to identify a section of that work that will be done by the private sector. So we have identified what is going to be done by the private sector and what is going to be done by the government. And the approach is the government is going to invest in the backbone fiber optic cable for areas that the private sector do not deem commercially viable. The private sector is then going to take up that backbone cable and then distribute it to the businesses and to the homes around. So we are saying we are lessening the burden for the private sector to make them easy to go into investments of the infrastructure with a quicker return on investment. When we do that, it then means if a private sector company was going to charge you X amount, we have reduced the overall outlay capital they would have done to reach you. They need then to reduce their costs for you to be able to consume the service. The other aspect of it is collaboration between government agencies. We do have a number of agencies that have been deploying fiber optic cables. Largely, some of them have done it for their own internal use.
Independent of the ICT
Independent
Authority.
of the ICT Authority. For example, we have Kenya Power, who run quite a number of kilometers of fiber. We have Kenya Pipeline, who run it to manage their pipeline, and so on and so forth. So we're also saying we leverage on each other so that on routes where a government agency has already developed or implemented fiber, we don't need to go into that route.
But this is where the question comes in.
Yes.
By the time Kenya Pipeline is rolling out their fiber along their pipeline, or by the time Ketraco is putting their fiber on the pylons, or Kenya Power is putting fiber on their, where was the ICT Authority?
Yes. So
That collaboration should have been there from the very beginning. This is it. So you guys have infrastructure, you have a pipeline, you need to use the service. So this is how we work. You shall roll out the fiber. Sounds like you are coming, you're backpacking on them.
Thank you for that observation. I think it may appear so, but there are a number of reasons why we have gotten ourselves into this situation. First, our infrastructure has been built over a long time and in phases. So you may find that, for example, Kenya Pipeline required a certain section before we were there. And therefore, they were allowed to do that section because the ICT Authority had not gone into that section. Kenya Power, the same. But now, as we close in, what we are saying is really, instead of going and build where Kenya Power has already built or KPC has already built, we leverage on that infrastructure. And we are not only doing it for public sector, we are also doing it for the private sector. And we are encouraging the private sector. We have now established a register at the ICT Authority where we are saying, let the private sector come to us and tell us, where have you laid your fiber infrastructure? So that the next time company X wants to deploy in a certain route, they can quickly refer to us and we can tell them company Y already has infrastructure on this.
This is my issue.
Let us collaborate. Yes.
The ICT Authority was established when? 13 years ago?
Yes, 2013, 10 years ago.
10 years
Actually,
ago.
Eric, we are celebrating 10 years this year.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when the ICT Authority was established, it came and took over from something else that was there. What was there before?
Kenya ICT Board.
Yes.
Yes.
The ICT Board, when we were landing our fiber optic cables in Mombasa, the ICT Board was in place. And the ICT Board is the one that started rolling out this national fiber optic backbone. Right? They started doing it. They are the ones who were basically doing what the ICT Authority is doing now.
Yeah.
I look at it as the ICT Authority has been in existence for more than 10 years. Okay? And this is why I say, when we see all these cables, people coming and digging up the grounds every now and then, every day there's somebody who's digging up a cable somewhere. When we see Pipeline doing their thing, when we see Kenya Power doing their thing, when we see somebody else coming up and saying, you know what, I need fiber, so I'm going to dig up the ground, that just shows me that there is a lack of coordination with the agency that should be coordinating all this work. The ICT Authority has just basically like been sitting and suddenly waking up and realizing, oh my God, people have done the fiber. We need to catch up with them.
Yeah. So again, it's a good observation, and I'm sure you've seen it even in the neighborhoods. I think we don't have a problem with the government agencies. We've been able to control that over time because for them to undertake in infrastructure deployment, they've had to clear with the ICT Authority. I think for the public sector agencies, what we are saying is, going forward, we are only going to collaborate better so that nobody needs to invest or put in infrastructure where the government has already done so through another agency. And that is not a problem. The biggest issue we've been facing is in the private sector because the approach has been more competitive than collaborative. Yeah. And now we are requesting and working with the private sector stakeholders. If we are to achieve our dream of digitally connecting our country, we have to be cautious of how we spend our investments, whether it's from government or it's from the private sector. Mm-hmm. And what we are saying simply is, if an estate has already been fed through company X, before company Y comes and deploy their cable, they should come to us and check who has either backbone or what we call metro infrastructure in that area. And we can tell them who that person is, and they can go and negotiate whether this company has some leeway to give them some capacity or to carry them within their cable so that then they can serve their customers. Then they can channel that investment to another section of the country where nobody has made that investment.
But then you have to regulate how that negotiation takes place. Because one person can just basically claim monopoly. I laid out my cables, and so everybody, you've been sent by the ICT Authority. Come, I'm charging.
See me.
Yeah, I'm charging X.
Yeah, because if you're going to piggyback on my cable, I'm the one who put it here. I put in the investment to have it done. I made sure that manpower and the man hours then that we invested in here, you cannot then come and tell me that you will lay your own, which is what is happening right now.
Yep.
Other folks are coming and laying side by side, and we have, cities dug up.
Also, we have issues. We have issues with quality. We have issues with every so often. Kenha has to come and do pavements, Kura, because somebody came and dug up the road because they were putting in a new cable. They're an ICT provider. Where's the authority, man?
Yeah, so thank you for that. So we have done two things to address that. One is that from a regulatory and legal perspective, we are pushing for the critical infrastructure bill and also the ICT bill, the ICTA bill, which will help us to enforce some of those issues that you're speaking about. But then in the interim, we have actually developed some standards for fiber optic installation that not only lays out the quality of the fiber cable to be laid, but also, the structure in terms of the design. And we are working with the private sector to continuously review and improve these designs. But really, I think we are taking a sector approach and asking all of us in the ICT sector, and especially this area of digital infrastructure, to really work together. For us, we are more than ready and willing, and we have started those efforts of enhancing collaboration and coordinating the efforts both by government and the private sector so that we can achieve the 100,000 kilometers.
So looking at all of this, and it's just to say that there is a plan, there is a goal that is being reached to have Kenya essentially on the digital map. How and in what sectors will we then see that the greatest gains can be made to say that, yes, in terms of being on the digital highway, Kenya is where it ought to be? Or is it still at a level of aspiration?
So thank you very much. And I think I'll just go back to the remarks made by your colleague, Eric, that, in the current administration, the government has actually identified 5 thematic areas, which we see as the main drivers for the digital economy. And those specific sectors identified are actually our first main focus to support with ICT, both as a driver and as an enabler. So we have started doing a lot of work in the healthcare area, in terms of visioning of how healthcare system should look like. What experience do we want our citizens to have when we go to hospitals, and so on and so forth. So that is one of the critical sectors that we have been focusing on as the first beneficiaries of this process. The other key sector is lands and settlement, and you've seen the work we have done with the Adhisasa system, which is now already integrated into the eCitizen, again to help us deal with the issues of land searches and transfers and so on. Those are some of the priority sectors, that we have focused on. But also, in tandem with that, we are very much focused on, as we deploy this infrastructure, how do we enable our citizens to tap into these opportunities? Because the government is spending or is investing a lot in deployment of the infrastructure.
Right.
But how do we unlock the value for the citizens?
Exactly.
So we have a number of initiatives which we are undertaking. One, I think I spoke about the public Wi-Fi, which, if you allow me, I'll just go back and touch on briefly because it's a critical component. First of all, when we first deployed the public Wi-Fi's in the pilot phase late last year, we realized that the public Wi-Fi's, people are enjoying it for social benefits,
right?
Communication, YouTube downloads, and so on and so forth. Now we have slowly geared our citizens towards using the public Wi-Fi services for e-commerce. So what we have done, as we deploy the public Wi-Fi, we are also deploying for them an e-commerce portal, which we are calling GConnect Soko, where traders can go in.
It's called what?
GConnect Soko.
GConnect.go.ke.
Yes, GConnect Soko.
Okay.
So traders can go in, they register, and they can be able to upload their wares and their services online, and this instantly opens up, a big market for them, both in the localities where they are, but also in other parts of the country. We are working very closely to close the fulfillment bit for delivery with the Postal Corporation of Kenya. So very soon we're going to onboard the Postal Corporation of Kenya onto that portal, so that when you make an order through the GConnect Soko, once you pay, you can actually get the delivery to your home. The other critical thing that we are doing through the public Wi-Fi is to also enable the traders to be able to learn about their products online. So avail product-specific information, depending if it's an agricultural market, then those traders have access to information about those products. They can educate themselves. They can see what the country trends, the world trends are around their products. Then, for areas where young people would necessarily congregate around bus parks and open areas, we are training them to be able to start looking at the digital jobs that are available, the simple digital jobs that are available on the online space. So we know that this one service of the public Wi-Fi is really going to unlock a lot of economic opportunities for the traders, the young people, and the citizens in general.
Stanley, just take me through how this public Wi-Fi works. Take one place. Where do you have City Market?
Yes, City Market we have.
So if I go to City Market, what do? Do I see a notification that tells me there's XXX Wi-Fi available? Or take me through that whole connection.
Yes, so thank you. The public Wi-Fi, for you to access the public Wi-Fi, when you go to a place where there's government public Wi-Fi, we have called it GOK public Wi-Fi, and it's free.
That's simple.
The public, yes,
GOK
it's
public
Wi-Fi, and it's simple.
No underscore, no hyphen.
Nothing.
Okay.
GOK public Wi-Fi. So you either go to your settings, and you if your of course if your Wi-Fi settings are not on, you need to set them on. Then you will just go in and you access for free.
No password.
No password required.
Okay.
So the security measures for the public Wi-Fi are in the background. You don't need a username and a password for you to access the service. It's a password-free service.
Okay.
Then you can be able to consume the service.
And that's it. What's
That
the
is-
range?
So it depends from market to market, but on average, depending on how big the market is, we're also extending outside the market up to about 100 meters. Yes. So if you're within the vicinity for 100 meters of that area, you should be able to access that service comfortably.
Now, this now brings in the issue of cybersecurity. We've had experts here on ICT who've said, be careful about these public Wi-Fis, because you don't know whether this is actually a genuine public Wi-Fi or it's a scam being run by somebody who's sitting somewhere and they just want to access your data. So how do you safeguard users who are now going to find this GOK public Wi-Fi?
Yeah. Thank you very much. I think we have taken a two-pronged approach to this issue of cybersecurity. And we always say safety begins with you. So the first thing we do is to actually create awareness to the citizens of how they need to conduct themselves when they're online. And it is not only about GOK public Wi-Fi. It is across board, because whatever internet access you use, the risks are the same. So we have an elaborate security sensitization program. We call it Usalama Mtandaoni, where everywhere we go, we sensitize our users on it. And, it's also available through our channels. Because really the users need to be aware of what they need to do to take care of themselves. For example,
no matter how aware I am,
yes.
All right. So I know that the government public Wi-Fi is called GOK public Wi-Fi. All right. I know that you have it in several public places. I don't know exactly how many or which ones. If a scammer decides to go to, now you're in City Market, they go to Kenyatta Market and they set up something and they call it GOK public Wi-Fi and they make it free and available, people will come and use it. How will somebody verify that what I am seeing here called GOK public Wi-Fi is actually the true GOK public Wi-Fi?
So thank you for that question, Eric. So maybe just I go back to my initial response, because I addressed the issue of the user side. Then the second approach to secure the public Wi-Fi, and maybe this will answer your question, is the measures we have taken to protect the citizens from the back end. And if someone sets up a public Wi-Fi, it costs money to set up a public Wi-Fi. So most probably, this person is probably trying to fish data from you.
Exactly.
Or, something of that sort, or to gain access to your phone or to your phone, whatever applications. So the first thing you need to know is, for us, we never ask you for any personal information. So first, if a public Wi-Fi purported to be GOK is asking you for personal information, PIN, name, whatever it is, then that is not a GOK public Wi-Fi. And it is true, it is possible for somebody to actually set up a public Wi-Fi and copy our name. So that is a possibility. But from our end, what we have also done is we have been cautious to filter traffic. We have, the tools and equipments and softwares to be able to filter traffic, so that if someone tries to, for example, using our service, log into a certain website a number of times, then we should be able to flag it, and stop the service. We have also separated the traffic for public Wi-Fi, so that it doesn't interfere with the rest of government, because also there's a risk of people pushing
that as an entry,
that as an entry to government system. So that is completely separate. So, but we're saying, even with the security measures that we have taken, we have a huge responsibility for the citizens to be responsible and learn about cyber hygiene, which we have taken upon ourselves to educate on.
How are you educating people, Stanley?
Thank you. I think, digital skills is not just about the public Wi-Fi. It's another critical component of our work. And we are saying, if we are going to really unlock the digital economy, we have to have a mindset change, and we have to have a skill set change. And we have to look at this issue from the entire value chain, the education value chain. So if you may recall, we had an intensive program a few years ago we were calling digital learning program, literacy program, which was targeting the the public primary schools, where we deployed about 1.1 devices, developed content in collaboration with the KICD, and deployed, trained teachers in conjunction with TSC, and they were able to scale, that program. We are also looking at now, so at a low level, basic education, we have certain programs which we are developing, and those are already, rolled out in collaboration with the KICD. At the intermediary level, as students leave universities and so on, we have also developed a curriculum. In fact, after this session, I have a stakeholder engagement where we are reviewing the curriculum for that particular caliber of citizens, because we are saying the young people leaving Form 4 and university are going to come into the workforce. So we need to prepare them adequately for the digital space. Then, of course, we have the people who are already working, both in private sector and public sector. So again, for the public sector, our role really for training is around the public sector side. We are also deploying, we have now what we are calling a smart academy online, where citizens can log in, and I think so far we have trained about 50,000 citizens on basic skills on the internet, which include what we're discussing here on cyber security. Then we have very advanced programs for the public sector, because also really, if we digitize government and we don't empower the public sector workforce, then how are they going to deliver the services to the citizens? So we have an elaborate plan on digital skills. Our target in the next 5 years is to actually reach to 20 million Kenyans through various platforms. This year we are targeting 5 million. We have already engaged the academia, and we are saying the ICT Authority can not go into every corner of the country. So what we have done is to collaborate with TVETs, collaborate with universities and all tertiary, colleges, for them to be able to deliver our curriculum.
Okay.
So yes,
you touched on education. I want to go back to that a little bit, because in terms of getting the country switched on, a major part of that population is school going children, and then to the tertiary level that you spoke of. If anything, COVID taught us that we needed to be connected, because children were out of school for a year and they couldn't learn even when we wanted to do so digitally, because a very small number of people then were able to be connected. Now, you've talked about pilot programs in terms of wider implementation across board to make sure that schools around the country are actually connected and that they can learn digitally as well as from books. Is there something like that beyond what you've spoken of to actually see it happen? Not hoping for a disaster, but then as an alternate source to learning.
Yeah. Thank you very much. So first of all, for the education sector, we can't talk about digital learning without first of all putting in place the infrastructure to connect the schools and the TVETs and the colleges and the universities. So, and I think for probably the tertiary education institutions have a fair connectivity. We are working to reach, those who are not connected on our NOFB. And I think we have a target of about 2,000 institutions this year in that category. But for the primary schools, for the primary school, the DLP program, the digital learning or digital literacy program, elicited a lot of interest. And we have seen a lot of investments in this area of content development. So in fact, now it's a problem of what content should be deployed, but I think that is a work of KICD and the Ministry of Education to regulate that. For us, what we are doing is we have the guidelines in terms of what those softwares should be, and then we are assisting with the deployment of connectivity to the schools and provision of the devices.
If another global pandemic were declared today, and we had to go back to 2020 March, and schools close, would we have continuity in learning?
To a large extent of our country, yes. To some of our country, especially if you look at, towards the north, we still have a challenge in connectivity. And I think those are the areas that I say the government have put deliberate effort to extend. Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
Let's say in Nairobi. Would we have continuity in learning for children in Nairobi if children in Nairobi did not go to school today for an entire week? Show me how.
So we will be able to do that.
How?
And I'll tell you how. First, in Nairobi, I think the issues of connectivity are fairly addressed. Of course, we have a few areas, a few pockets, where probably connectivity is not as good. But you'll be surprised, Eric, even if all the schools do not have sufficient laptops, and even in the program that we delivered under DLP, we only managed to do about 1.1 million devices. You'll be surprised that as of last year's data, we had about 63 million active telephone lines.
In Nairobi?
Not in Nairobi, in the country. 63 million. So what does that tell you? That from a gadgets perspective,
we have the gadgets.
We have the gadgets.
That's not an issue. What I'm wondering is,
yes,
as an authority,
yes,
coming from the experience of 2020, where it disrupted learning for 2 years, 2 calendar years, where we just had, we don't know whether we're in term 1 or term 3 or term 4, right? Have you had those lessons and sat down with the Ministry of Education and said, okay, so this is how we address it in future should this thing happen? Our KICD, this is how you deploy online learning. Institutions, your ministry, through your officers on the ground, through TSC, this is how you deliver online learning. Have you had that conversation? I'm not hearing like you have.
Look, Eric, the conversations have happened, even if it's not in one structured way where we say bring all the stakeholders together. We have held conversations with different stakeholders. Everybody knows what they need to do. Maybe what we need now to do is to really say, from a disaster planning perspective for the education sector, we need to come together and see what is the support of ICT if we were to get into this issue. And this is not only on the education sector. We need to do it across board.
Yes.
Because today's education, tomorrow
will be health.
and so on and so forth. But, the engagement with the stakeholders has been happening over time. Probably is just to bring it all together, and wrap it up and say, in case of a disaster in this sector, how do we move?
And that's the mandate of the ICT Authority.
That's the mandate. That's
to take a lead.
That's correct. That's
on
our
these
mandate.
conversations.
Yes.
Okay.
And we are equal to the task, and we are ready for the challenge. I think just to go back to again the question asked in terms of some of the issues.
In 30 seconds.
Yes. The other issue is around digital hubs. Mm-hmm. We have set out to do 1,450 digital hubs in the country. Now, we are going to deploy devices in these digital hubs, where our youth can go, get trained. You talked about training, but also unlock jobs. So we are saying, if we can be able to train per shift 100 youths in a day, that is 14,000 of them in a day.
Yeah.
So, you can do the maths. So we'll be able to train them. And then in about 3-4 months, once all these hubs are active, those will quickly translate into
employable
jobs. Yes.
Employable people, and then job opportunities come in.
Yes.
Stanley, we thank you very much for joining us today.
Yeah.
Come again soon.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.